Hello, I'm Andrew Petrie, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views, and analysis you need on Monday, the 17th of November. Well, have you recovered from Saturday night yet?
Goal! Ryan Christie with a header! Scotland back to within a goal of Greece! Bedlam in the away end as the Tartan Army believe once more!
Scotland put on a thrilling second-half performance, squandering countless chances as they came up short in Greece. But our luck hasn't quite deserted us.
Full time, you can hear the cheers there, the Tartan Army across it. Full time in Copenhagen, Denmark 2, Belarus 2. We just couldn't have seen that one coming.
Belarus handed Scotland a lifeline by securing an unlikely draw with Denmark, which sets up a cup final at Hampden on Tuesday night.
Winner takes all on Tuesday, that's all we can ask. You know, people were writing us off from the very start. We guaranteed a playoff for 4 games, and now we've got a shoot off and we've got a final to play on Tuesday, and I hope everyone at Hampden gets right behind us.
We'll make sense of the beautiful chaos of Scotland's final World Cup qualifier.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Well, I'm delighted to be joined by 2 former Scotland internationals, Pat Nevin and Don Cowie. Gentlemen, I'm still scratching my head at that game. Pat, what was your reaction to the first 40 minutes or so? Were you surprised in that initial showing where Scotland seemed maybe a little meek at times?
Meek may be part of it, but we were completely and utterly outplayed. And it could have been finished. Everybody knows it could have been finished 10, 15 minutes in. You think, it could have been easily 3-4 down. Weird things going on. Nobody playing to their best. Ball wasn't being held up for a variety of reasons. We weren't playing it through the midfield, which I think was a major part of the problem. Nothing against our players. We just weren't able to kind of play it through those phases. So it was going in there. We were losing it. Coming straight back into us again. And that's a desperate situation for any team, because you look around for everybody. Come on, get together, get closer. And it wasn't happening. But we got out of it. Suddenly, from nowhere, we started making a few chances, and then great chances. And then just after that, it just went bats. It just went bonkers. Just trying to figure out what's going on after that was beyond me. Wow. But I'll tell you what, if you weren't a Greek or a Scotland supporter, you'd have loved it because it was mad.
Yeah, it was, I think, one of the most entertaining football matches I'd ever seen. And I was at St Johnstone 4, Queen's Park 3 earlier in the day anyway, so it had a lot of competition, but it still lived up to it. Don, Scotland had a little bit longer than normal in a kind of international camp to train and get the tactics right. Did that surprise you again, I guess, that the fact that the tactics didn't really seem to be working at large spells in that game?
Well, I think Greece are a technically very good team, very dangerous team. We've seen that at Hampden in the first game, and I think we all thought, like you say, with that extra bit of time, we would manage to put our stamp in the game a lot more. And they're a very dangerous side. They didn't have anything really to play for, and they played with a real freedom. And like Pat says, we just never got to grips, never got control of the game, especially first half. And, it was wave after wave of attack from Greece. But slowly, we started to get a foothold in the game. And I think you've seen that at the end of the first half, with 3 good opportunities, we could have got the goal, and gone in level at half time, which would have been an injustice, really. But I think it's another sign of Scotland in terms of we're such a better team when we play in the front foot, we play with energy, we get the ball forward, and we just lacked that in that opening 40 minutes.
And of course, you guys have the insight of being in these kinds of dressing rooms. Have you ever been in a dressing room where you've maybe not secured the result that you needed to, but you've been helped out elsewhere? What's the mood like when that happens?
It's a get out of jail free card. It's a brilliant feeling, because the fabulous thing about it is, Scotland in the end finished well in the game and looked good and looked strong. There's something to be said about the psychology of that when you come out of a game thinking, actually, yeah, we should have got. That moment, we could go on about so many moments, but when Scott McTominay nearly scored at the end and the keeper puts a leg out and it goes over the crossbar, like chance in a million save, we could have been walking away with that. With a draw, which would have made no difference whatsoever. But psychologically, it might have helped just that wee bit more. But the psychology is what you're thinking about. The lads know that they played good in times, not so well in other times, but still get very close to, as Don correctly says, an extremely good Greek side, a very good technical side. Remember, they done England a wee while back. They're no mugs whatsoever. So, I think you walk about and think of it, look, we're still in it. That's all that matters. See, when you get to a World Cup or a Euros, you don't care about what got you there. You just don't give a stuff. You're there. You've managed it by hook or by crook, and that's all the lads think. If we'd have said to everybody, every Scotsman, woman and child before the start, we've got a game at Hampden, it's the last game, and we've got to win it to go through. Are you going to take that? There's a nation of hands that's flying up in the air, isn't there? Absolutely. So that's where we are. We've got there, and I think that's all positive. That's just all ultra positive.
The kind of other side of that, I suppose, is that players are often their own worst critics. One player who didn't have the best game was John Souttar. Now, Don, I know you know John very well. How will he respond to that initial mistake that allowed Greece to score, and how do you think he'll kind of come back from the game as a whole?
Yeah, well, he'll be disappointed with the opening goal. I think Scotland will be disappointed with all 3 goals that they conceded. John individually for the first goal, misread the bounce of the ball, and you get punished, at the top level, and that's exactly what Greece did. We thought Craig Gordon had, pulled out the stop with the first save, but the rebound then goes in. But John has got, so much character. What he's gone through in his career with the injuries that he's had. I think he's had 3 Achilles tendon surgeries, which, to be playing at the international level just speaks volume of the character that he is as a person. So I'm sure he'll be disappointed, but he'll bounce back just like the rest of the boys and get ready for Tuesday.
You mentioned Craig Gordon there. There was a bit of pre-match debate about who Steve Clarke would pick as his number 1. I think for large parts, Craig Gordon had a fantastic game. He made a few unbelievable saves and really kept Scotland in it. Ultimately, though, that third goal maybe goes through him, and that's what proves to be the winner. Pat, were you surprised that Steve Clarke plumped for Craig Gordon, and how do you think he did overall?
I'd have been shocked if he'd have gone for any other decision. Look, in a big game like that, the big man's done so well for such a long time, and he's so dependable for Scotland. And he was. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he was a man of the match, and yes, that third goal, that will annoy him. It's one of those classic ones. I watched it back because see when you see it first time and then you see the replay always in slow motion, like it happened in slow motion, and it didn't. The pace of that ball was extraordinary. Absolutely, the guy melted it, and Craig was quite far out. It's a technical thing where a goalkeeper's that far out. Was he 6 or 7 yards out? So it is gone past him almost before he can move his hand. He'll be seriously disappointed, but it looks a lot worse mistake than it actually is. I mean, I think it's understandable. So, yeah, Craig, absolutely delighted with him, 42. And that, what about that other moment? I mean, so many moments. See the moment where like, the crossbar from McTominay, and then at the end, we're 3-2 down, and the big man trying to come up for a corner kick. You say, come on, you're 42. He doesn't care. And I loved all that side of it. So, no concerns, no worries. I think he can walk out with his head held high, as he always does in that situation. And by the way, the other thing about him wanting to go up for that corner and getting most of the way there, it has to be said, was our tactics at the time. And Don, I'm sure you've been there as well, right? Now and again, there comes a game you think, are we really playing this system? Right. So see at the end when we've got 3 centre forwards on. You got Shankland and Hurst is on there as well. Dykes is on there as well. McTominay's basically playing as a centre forward as well. And you're thinking, I'm sure that wasn't in the coaching manual. So I'm absolutely sure. And that was what I kind of loved about the fact that people have said various things about Clarkey, and I'm biased. I'm hands up right away. He's a mate of mine, and I'm biased anyway. But I also think he's a fabulous manager and a superb technical coach. But he doesn't mind throwing a kitchen sink at it when you need to. And that's, I think, looking around at Scotland fans, last couple of games, it's not been great, has it? It's been really quiet. Not blaming them. The games have been rubbish. But this time, we need the players being chaotic and mad when the time comes, when we need it. We need the fans behind us all the way to the last seconds, whatever happens. And the fact that we came back from 3-0 down there and nearly got it to 3-3, And I think the Tartan Army will stick with us all the way in this one, because this is the most important game in decades. I think we can say that.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And you said it was a game of little moments. There were so many moments. I was watching the game at home with my dad, and I think I dropped to my knees about 3 times at the chances that Scotland had, that I was certain we were about to do it. Don, as a footballer, when you're on the pitch and you've kind of passed up those opportunities, when it kind of gets to a certain number, you starting to think, God, it really isn't our day. Because certainly as fans we feel that, but do you feel it as players?
Well, I think when it's, the chances that we had at the end, to still be in the game at that point, I think you've just got to keep persevering. There's no moment to think about that. I think, Che Adams has a couple of really good opportunities and, just didn't show that clinical edge, especially the one near the end. And yeah, frustration comes in. But I think when you're in that moment, you just got to stick at it. There'll be time for reflection after the game when you'll be really disappointed that you've not managed to get your name on the score sheet. But I think the real positive for me is just the quality of opportunities that we had in the game, despite not being at our best. I can't really remember us creating so many good opportunities where you expect, a goal to come from it. And like Pat says, I think you've got to take real confidence and belief from that despite the first half showing, we were right in the game at the end of the match, and that'll be a big boost going into Tuesday night, and there'll be a feel-good factor in terms of, yeah, we got away with it with Denmark, dropping points, but let's go and make the most of that now.
Can I go in quickly?
Yeah, on you go, Pat, on you go.
You asked a great question there. And as players, it kind of sometimes depends on what group you're with, how you feel about it and how you react to it. With this group, how will we look back under Stevie Clarke's reign? How many times have we scored late goals? How many times have we come through on the clutch and thought we just got it when it was unexpected, unbelievable, amazing? Yeah, so it's one of those ones where as a group you look at each other and think, yeah, we've been here before. Yeah, we can do this. We don't give up. If you're in a team that's not been used to doing that, then maybe slightly different. But this is not the case with this Scotland side, or the group as it's evolved over the years with Stevie Clarke. So yeah, I think it's a great question, but it's also a question that's got a positive answer for Scotland. That yeah, as a group, yeah, we can. We've got a chance. Right, we can make another one and another one, and see if it's going into 90th minute. It's all right. We can still make another couple. That's fine.
And we kind of mentioned Copenhagen there. Obviously, Belarus were 2-1 up at one point on Denmark. I must admit, I wasn't really thinking about that game at all until that little scoreline popped up in the corner. Pat, were you the same? Were you thinking about it at all until that kind of scoreline came through and you suddenly thought, oh, there's still a chance?
I was staggered by that, because it was 1-0 and then 2-1, and you're thinking, have they got that right? I don't know about everybody else, but my phone was straight out. I was like that, right? Okay, make sure this. Again, when our game's finished at the end, when it got to 2-2, you're looking at it and thinking, you're urging it on to move, because I couldn't get the game anywhere else. That funny thing I was thinking about as well? See the amount of managers and coaches that say, oh, I don't look at what's going on in the other games. Yeah, right. You see the really tactics changed for us as that other game in Copenhagen developed. You must have a feed to it because it adapts everything you possibly do. So no, we didn't see it coming. Belarus are taking a couple of hidings, but technically they looked okay against us at Hampden. They looked pretty good, and we all know it's one of those classic ones. Everyone always tells you, oh, they're minnows, you should beat them. Until you do a team, honestly, that they'll work hard, they'll be every team at this level is organised to a degree, and you have to break them down, and you usually have to get that second goal and then you can breathe. Until that actually happens, it's a nightmare. It can be really, really hard. I remember one coach used to say, if you put 10 bins out in front of a goal, it's hard to play around them. But just make them football players of whatever level, and it can be tough. So, they're a wee bit better team than we kind of given them credit for. But no, did I think they would go 2-1 ahead against the Danes? Absolutely not. Did I think they'd give us the hope that we hoped for? No. Do we kind of deserve it? I think we do, really, the way we've fought. Without playing well in the number of the games, the points we had 10 points out of 12 there. It doesn't matter how you get it. That's good. That's showing that you're capable in lots of different ways. So I'm delighted and I'm happy, and I think it's fair that we've got this cup final.
Well, that's it. Going on to that cup final on Tuesday night, I think any Scotland fan would take an absolutely horrendous performance in a 1-0 win at this stage. But Don, what are you kind of expecting from Steve Clarke tactics-wise? I kind of think back to that game against Hungary at the Euros, and it was maybe a little bit more defensive than we wanted. It certainly wasn't the performance that Scotland fans wanted. Do you think he'll maybe go a little bit more attacking because of that, or do you think he'll be quite pragmatic?
Well, I think the way that he's coached the national side for a number of years now, he's been very successful at it. In terms of what he decides to do, we've qualified, for 2 European Championships. We're on the cusp of potentially, qualifying for a World Cup for the first time in a long time. So I don't think, I know a lot of people like to question managers, especially Steve, because he's the national manager, but I think the proof's in the pudding in terms of he tends to get it right more often than not. One thing just for me, looking at Scotland the last few games, and it was something that Pat said there, was the word chaos. And I just feel sometimes, John McGinn, I think he's such an important player. He's so influential. And sometimes when he plays wide for Scotland, the game can pass him by a little bit. And that's what he brings. He brings chaos. He brings energy. So maybe getting him more centrally, he's just so infectious. You see, whenever he's involved in the game, he inspires those around him. So, I'd like to see him play a little bit more central, but at the same time, I would never question what, Steve decides to do.
Yeah, I certainly think John McGinn probably had one of his best showings on Saturday night for Scotland, and he's had maybe in a little while. Pat, what about you? What do you think Steve Clarke needs to do or should do perhaps on Tuesday night? Sorry,
Just a lot of tough decisions to make. You've got decisions to make at centre back. I think Big Soapy got to start. Okay, you can have bad, difficult times, but look, he's been great for us. But they've got decisions to make there. I think we know most of that. He's got a big decision to make at centre forward because Che missed those chances, but boy did he work hard. Boy did he hold the ball up brilliant as the game went on. I think he had a superb game, but all people remember those chances, and it's a real shame. And we've got other players that have come on and looked desperate for it. So there's a big call to make, who's going to be the one or maybe two up front. One of the hardest things I find most difficult, having watched it for all these years, the last number of years, up until Germany, our best thing about our entire team, bar none, was, well, apart from Callum McGregor, was pretty damn good, but on that left-hand side, we were unstoppable. When we had Kieran and we had Robbo on the pitch at the same time, we destroyed top-level teams from there. I'm just thinking, I want a pitch with a slope on it so the ball always goes left. Because they were that brilliant together, right? And he can't, because of the system, we can't get them together. And you could almost squash Randy in the sort of left midfield role, but it's kind of pushing the whole thing apart to get it. So it's not what he starts with. It's what we develop as the game goes on. And it may well be that Kieran wasn't used at any point in the game over in Greece. I suspect that there might be a time with half an hour to go that becomes a secret weapon, that we may bring him on. You get Doak one side, him the other side, flying down that area and asking massive questions of the opposition. But yeah, we know the ones that have to play. We know Big Scott has to be there. And I just get a feeling about Scott McTominay. He's had such an incredible time that you wouldn't be surprised if he makes a difference.
And one player who we were missing in Greece who might be available is Billy Gilmour. We're still not 100% sure. Now, for me, if Billy Gilmour's fit, I think he should be in the starting 11. Don, what do you think?
Well, I think what Billy would bring is he brings calmness, doesn't he? He wants to get on the ball. He gets you playing through the lines. He's got that composure to make passes. And it's going to be frantic, I'm sure, because of the atmosphere and what's at stake, and he's got that cool head. So, if he's available, we don't know for definite if it's an option or not. He's missed Napoli's last game, so hopefully he's an option. but whether he's ready to come in and start is something that we don't know yet. But I would probably play him, personally, because I just think he's got real quality to find those passes.
Right. On top of that, I would say one other thing, Andrew. I need to say it before you go off that particular topic. We've got some great players, and we love John McGinn, and we love all the players we talked about. My first pick in the team, if he's available, is Billy Gilmour. First pick. That's a huge thing to say. But having watched him all the way through his time at Chelsea, when he's moved around at international level, he is a dream. He's an absolute dream. You get control of games. You get control of play. It's so important. Again, Don played midfield. When you've been in that midfield, you need somebody that can hold the thing together. And he's as good as just about anyone around. He's an absolutely phenomenal player. And I'm desperately hoping that he'll be available for us, because he'd be my first pick.
Fingers crossed, and Scotland get that bit of luck with him. They might get a bit more luck. I've been reading the papers today, and it seems there's a sickness bug apparently going around the Danish squad, just to add to the intrigue of the match. How damaging could that be to Denmark, Don, if they are kind of battling that? And will the Scotland players be kind of reading anything into that?
Well, I think it's if it's true, it can have a big impact on the team. I know Hoyland didn't play at the weekend. It said he was unwell. He's a threat, pace, power. So, we'll need to see if he's available. But if it's affecting other players within the camp, such a short turnaround, to Tuesday night, it could have a bearing on it. They'll be feeling a bit fragile after last night's result. They'll be extremely disappointed from that. And if they're missing some key players, we've got to then go and take advantage of it.
Pat, have you ever kind of been in the build-up to a big game and the squad's come down with a sickness bug? How harrowing is it?
I tell you, the one that jumps out of my mind is unbelievably harrowing. Just played for Scotland. I guess Estonia scored a couple up at Petrie for us, and made the other one. So I was playing up front. Can you believe it? For Scotland in the next game, away to Italy. And I'm sure Baresi and Costa Curta were just thinking, oh my God, it's him. But the night before, I got a sickness bug. And it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. I was dying to play. Anyway, Kevin Gallagher played instead and scored, actually. So well done him. We got hammered, but, that was that. But it does have quite an effect. It does have an extraordinary effect. Now, remember, back on the psychology again, the Danes are thinking, all we had to do was win. All we had to do is beat Belarus at home. And we've blown it. So psychologically, they're now going away from home to Scotland. They've played us once. We drew with them in their backyard. Now, psychologically, even before any sickness bug, that's not a good place for them to be. We've also done them before, which kind of helps. So you put all that in the pot. They can't be waltzing in Hampden Park thinking, this is a piece of cake, we're going to walk this. They must have lots and lots of concerns. Stick a wee sickness bug on top of that as well. So it's kind of why I hope right at the start of the game that we're able and capable to put on a right high tempo and make it as physical as possible without being dangerous to losing players. I'd love us to be able to do that, because as an old manager used to say to me, everything that their advantage is against them, which doesn't make any sense at all, but that's exactly what he used to say.
Well, that leads us on to the $1 million question then, prediction time. Don, we'll start with you. What do you think is going to happen?
I think I believe we can win the game. I think maybe it's written for us with the way the results played out last night. It's been a long wait to get to a World Cup. I remember it myself, the last time, 15-year-old, the excitement that it brought to me individually and to the country. And I think it's just, a massive occasion on Tuesday. And like Pat said previously, I think despite the result last night, I think there's a lot of positivity to take from it. With just the opportunities that we created, I think Hampden's going to be absolutely buzzing. The atmosphere is going to be incredible because we're so close, and I genuinely believe we can get the job done. So I'm going to go 2-1 Scotland.
What about you, Pat?
Right, up front, honest, just tell you the truth. I absolutely didn't think we were going to get past this. Before the game in Greece, I thought we'll probably lose that, and the Danes will win it. So I was expecting this to get to the playoffs, and there was a toss of coin depending who you get. And I thought if we get through and it's a one-off against the Danes at home, I still don't think we'll do it. After what happened last night, I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind because of that chaos that I'm talking about. Because I loved that. My whole career was about creating it all the time, and I'm looking at a bunch of players who look as if they're loving it when they have to. When you're watching Ben Gannon Doak decide, no, I'm just going to go mad and go through the centre, and the amount of things that we can do and the will that's there. So, I think we can do it. I will, however, suggest it won't happen in 90 minutes. We'll probably leave it till the 94th.
I don't think we can take that.
No, that's it. But that's us. That's Scotland. But I think we're going to squeeze it by the odd goal. I'm beginning to believe it now. I really am.
Oh, I hope both of you are right when it comes to that. If it's nerve shredding, if it's boring, whatever it is, just as long as it comes away with a Scotland win. Well, that's all we've got time for. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. My thanks to Don and Pat for joining me, and thank you for listening. We'll see you at Hampden on Tuesday night. Goodbye.
Sir Alex Ferguson is the most successful British manager of all time.
Nobody is above him or this football club.
So how did an apprentice toolmaker from Glasgow become one of the most iconic figures in sporting history?
His strength of character, his determination, the fight in him.
He can be persuasive, he can be charming, he can be frightening.
I'm Kelly Cates, and this is Sporting Giants Sir Alex Ferguson.
I didn't want to feel, I couldn't feel.
Listen on BBC Sounds.